Hello, everyone. We're back. Sorry about that. Again, my name is Hillary Morell, and I am one of the coalition co-leads for Summit Programming, and I am also a dream worker. So I am very excited to introduce my friends and colleagues, Dajane and Jen. So I will hand it over to you two. Oh, and there will be time for Q&A, so please feel free to put questions in the chat.
Thanks, Hillary. All right. Hey, Daj.
Hey.
So we want to make sure we get enough time for Q&A. So I'm going to go through my thing real quick. I'm Jennifer Elrod. I am an artistic recruiter at DreamWorks Television. So I'm on the TV side. I have been in animation for a long time. Not going to say how long. I started as a production secretary, and then I was a PA, and then moved into recruiting, and I was at Blue Sky prior to this for almost 5 years. It was a wonderful experience, and I just hit 3 years at DreamWorks, and I will pass it over.
Hi, I'm Dajane Harbs. I'm an associate recruiter at DreamWorks Animation, primarily supporting feature. And I help recruit for all of the creative technical roles. So technical directors, effects, lighting, modeling, character effects, surfacing, digimat and matte painting, as well as some technology roles. And I recently just started helping TV with their CG roles. I've been at DreamWorks, it'll be 2 years in May. And prior to that, I was at Sony PlayStation for 3.5 years.
Totally forgot to say what I recruit for because I got nervous. So I recruit for story on the TV side. So that's revisionists, story artists, directors, sometimes supervising directors. I do production hiring, PC and up. And then I also do all of the hiring for our development department. So that is a lot of our freelance hiring. All right. Like I said, trying to watch the time so we have time for Q&A. I think we were supposed to start a little bit with some basic just portfolio tips, and then we're going to jump into showing a couple portfolios and just kind of walking through, some things to help you as you're putting yours together. A couple basic portfolio tips I always say is make it really easy to find. Don't make a search for your portfolio. Put it on, if you have a LinkedIn, put it on your LinkedIn. Put a link on your resume, make sure that it's easy to navigate. I mean, those are some of my big ones. How about you, Daj? Just a couple quick portfolio tips?
Yeah, I would say the same. I'd say also definitely include some explanations, maybe at the bottom of the screen as far as what your contributions were, if you collaborated with other folks on a team or a project, just so we know exactly what you did. And yeah, just make sure that your information is easy to find. And if it's password protected, please share that with us. Because if we can't find your password, we can't look at your work. So.
And we will move on. And we don't mean to be rude about it. Just we're busy. So yeah, those are really good tips as well. So I'm just going to jump into. We had a couple portfolios that were selected. I'm just going to jump into two really quickly to kind of give you some visual to what we're talking about. So I'm going to share. There we go. Can everybody see that okay? Can you see that, Daj? Looks like it's working. Okay. So this is a student portfolio. So this person is still in school. So that's where a lot of you are. First thing I noticed when I look at it, it's clean. It looks very easy to navigate. It's very clear what their, different sections are. It's wonderful. Resume, contact, all there. Thank you. I do always love, and I will always read the little about you, because I want to know about you and what you're interested in, where you're at in your career. So I definitely check that. So a little blurb is always really nice to see, just so I can kind of get familiar with you as a person and an artist. But yeah, very clean, very well put together. it's already an inviting front page, which is wonderful to see at this stage. So looking into it as I was kind of going into it, some tips I think to make this an even more well-functioning portfolio as a student. So I went in and I kind of looked at the character stuff. I was like, great, we've got some concepts. They said what it was for. Really helpful for me to know, because I know a lot of you are going to be doing group projects. Some of the process that they did here, you can see mechanics, all lovely. And then we have another style of work. And then we get down here, there's a little bit more. And then there's some Broken Gingerbread Man here, which is a color script concept page, and then some more personal work. I would probably put this on another page, honestly. But before I get into that, I'm going to go back really quickly. And I was looking at the VizDev work, and I'm starting to see double ups of work. So we saw this on the character page, but there's some differences. And now we've got some designs and some props and locations, which are wonderful to see. Especially on TV side, we do a lot of that design work. And then I'm seeing same stuff from the other page, and then some more personal stuff. So what I would say is, and then you get into some more other projects. So I, at this point in this person's portfolio career, would combine those two into a VizDev page, so that you're not jumping from one to the other and seeing the same work. If you're a student, you may not have a full page of just character design, or a full page of locations or environments or props. That is okay. I would put them in one and call it your VizDev section for now. And then this kind of stuff, the gouache paintings, portrait caricatures, all this, I would put on your personal work page. I wouldn't add it to the work that you've done for school, or some of the project work. This too, I think I would take these, because it's sort of you have all these projects you're working on, and suddenly it's just some personal stuff. So I would probably move that over to personal. And same with this. This is really more illustration. So I think they also had a comic page. Maybe I would put that there. And then they also have some story. So adorable little story. Love some thumbnails. That's great to see your sort of like quick process. Multi-panel, really, really hard to see. And you're not going to your timing isn't going to be what you want it when they're looking at it. It's harder to get through. So I always say, if you can, make it a click through or an animatic. Google Slides makes it a lot easier now to do that. But then at least when, an artist is quickly going through it, they're getting a little bit of the rhythm of your scene. So I always say, well before, and same here, you've got the multi-panel, they're just going to breeze through it. They're probably not going to get the timing. So I would definitely do that. And then again, we have the color script, doesn't really go on your story page. I would move that. But overall, I think like they have a really good start to this. And then, comics, everything else, resume, well put together. I'm going to jump over to somebody who's been working a little bit. So first thing, you can see character design. They kind of already know what they want to be doing. First images are really dynamic and interesting. You go down, I'm just going to kind of go through. We've got a little bit of the process work and, the movement, which is awesome. And then, this is really just more of a portfolio that is a little further ahead in their career. I think for this one, there's a lot of concept work, which is what they do. I could see them for maybe TV development or even features. I think only thing I would love to see is a little bit more of their process. We got some design here for costume, which is awesome to see too. We do that a lot. But I think I would love to see a little bit more of the artist's thought process into going into some of these characters to see how the brain works and how you're creating, which is something I think is really helpful for our art directors. I would either take your drawings here, the life drawings, and move them to the bottom, because then I noticed you have more down here. Usually this signifies the end of the portfolio. So I would either say, you've got a lot of strong stuff in here. I would either take it out or move it to the bottom so that like they know you're done. One note I did want to do, so this, Corey Loftus is well known, so it's awesome that you made sure to credit the artist. Good, thank you. I did notice that I was curious what it was for, and I was kind of looking around. And then I saw it was something that you had mentioned you were just taking the idea and then going and doing some evolution. And I maybe would just put a little description there so we know that. But yeah, this is a really nice portfolio, beautifully presented, and kind of a nice example of somebody who's just a little further along in their career. I'm going to stop sharing so that Dodge has time. Sorry, 1 second. I'm trying to find my mouse. Okay, there we go.
It's cool. I'd say your areas of expertise probably have a lot more feedback than mine. So, okay, so I'm going to share my screen. Let's see. Okay. Let me know if you can see. Can you see? Oh, okay. Okay, cool. So this this person, so both of my portfolios are students that have just had project work at their schools. So a little different from Jen's, where her folks had some professional experience. Oh, Alex, no problem. You're welcome. Great work. So let's just get right into it. So I do like that you have the slide presentation of all of your work, because you see whatever you click on, that's exactly what it goes to. So I think it's a great simplification. As Jen mentioned, having your name as well as what your specialties are highlighted are really helpful and important. It definitely keeps us in the loop with what you're doing. I do like how you have the different tabs for your resume, do your 3D work, and then as well as your 2D work. Jen, I thought you might have liked this one because of the EO David. I don't watch that.
I love David Rose at any moment in time.
I don't watch that show, so I'm like, all I know is EO David because everyone keeps saying it. So with that being said, I'm going to start with the ogre, Bodekin ogre. So I do like how you have your different summaries about some of the softwares that you use, as well as any like background information. So if we get into, so there are some stills, which is helpful. And then I like the variety of textures. I like how you do the breakdowns as far as the render shots with the wireframes and the models. And then also your turnaround, super helpful. And then of course you still go through all the stages in your turnaround. So I think that's great. I would have liked to have seen a little more reference as far as where you got your ideas for the character, as well as your textures. Now, if it was your own concept or character, then I think that's great. Maybe you can note that somewhere. But it is also helpful just to kind of see how you translated from a 2D drawing, the textures and the look, and how close to the actual reference you were to the sculpt. I do like the varying textures. I do think that you could give a little bit more context to those as well. Some meshes or some breakdowns of your texture samples. I love the dynamic pose. That's awesome and super helpful when looking at textures. I like the zoom ins. The only thing I would say is, even though this is like such a great character, there's a lot going on. In this work, I mean, depending on what you're going for, it has some similarities to like game design, which is fine. The only thing I would say is that as far as your textures are concerned, a few of them are a little similar. So because there's so much going on, you want to make sure that they're not all blending in together, and that you can really differentiate, when it goes from the body to the crocodile to the hand to the club. You just want to make sure that you're really fine tuning your textures. And if you're just using, the typical options that come within, like XGen or Arnold, then that's fine. But I think you might want to challenge yourself a little more to create your own. Moving on to David Rose. So I think this is awesome because you gave a nice stylistic approach to the photo render, which I can zoom down really quickly. He is here. So I think the stylistic approach, kind of reminds me of like a bobblehead. But I think it's awesome that you are doing your own models and, textures, and you're using ZBrush. The only thing I would say is when it gets to, well, so I think it's hard when you have a character that has like all one color, is wearing just one color, because then it's hard, like especially black, because then it's hard to really see the differences in the details. And I know that's the reference that you had, but I would, encourage you to like shy away from that. Or if you do have to do a character that's super dark in clothing or other things, that you include some references or some meshes for your textures, just to make sure. And then as far as his hair is concerned, I think if you want to maybe delve a little bit deeper into like grooming and hair, just because it lacks a little bit of definition. The shape is great, but I think that depending on the look that you're going for, you could give it a little bit more detail. But I mean, softwares like Substance Designer and Painter, it's a great direction to go in because a lot of companies are using that software. So yeah, that would be my recommendations for your work, Alex, but great job overall. And then next I'm going to share another portfolio. Here we go. Okay, is it coming up? Cool. Okay, so for this person, I think it's always helpful to have your demo reel on your homepage, just because it's easier to find, and you don't have to necessarily search so much through the page. And then I also like how you have clickable thumbnails on your homepage as well, if for folks to go straight to your work. Again, your name is bright and clear, as well as your specialty. And then you have your tabs that are pretty well thought out in regards to your projects. So I'm going to go through a couple of your projects, just because I know that with the demo reel, it kind of gives clips of each one, but you don't necessarily get to see your process or breakdown. So I love that you have the title, you have the software that you used, then a brief synopsis of, what challenge you were looking to overcome, what concept art you might have used. So let me just go ahead and play this. Word to the wise, sounds not necessarily needed unless that's what you're going for. Most recruiters usually mute it. Jen, you could disagree with me if you want to, but
I always mute.
okay. So I do love how you have like an organic scene, and then you're showing the different times of day. That's super key for someone with lighting interest. And I do like how you have a little variety of organic as well as hard surface samples. I will say that the special effects, I don't know if that was like pixie dust or something like that. I will say that it kind of contrasts a bit with the background and the look that you're going for. So maybe if there's a way, because I know that, of course, like visual effects animation maybe not your specialty. So I would encourage you to find someone, maybe a fellow like classmate or something that can try to animate that in your scene for you, so that you make sure it's not taking away from the actual piece. Speaking of which, as far as collaborations, it's great for you all to see how you can partner with your classmates, because you're essentially kind of utilizing their work to highlight your own and vice versa. So I love this one. I don't know if it's just relative to what's going on in the world, but the Quarantine Chronicles, I feel like it's real. I won't play the whole piece, but I just thought, it was a really great opportunity to showcase interior lighting, because it's totally different from external. And of course, the animations are great. So it really kind of gives weight to the mood of the scene. I just thought it was funny that she was kind of trying to sanitize a Amazon Amazon box. And like I said, the different times of day and the beams of light coming into the room, as well as, kind of highlighting the textures. So yeah, I would say overall, great job. It would have been nice to see some breakdowns in the actual video. I know you said they're coming soon, so it's great, but try to include breakdowns in your actual reel. And then lastly, I'll go to, let's see. So I thought this one was great because it shows your versatility in regards to like hard surfaces and objects that, are a little bit harder to light. The only thing is I wish this clip would have been a little bit longer, especially because it's moving. So it would have been great. I mean, it's a really good night scene. I see what you're trying to do with the reflective surfaces, and I guess I could pause it, but once again, it would be really great to see kind of your process and breakdown in regards to the lighting like you had for the woods, especially when it comes to such an opposite type of surface. But overall, I mean, great job on both of these. And I just had one note about this dialogue sequence. So I think that, I guess this is when the sound is important, right? So whoever animated this, I mean, unless it was you, is really great. The only thing that I would say is it gets a little tricky with characters and their different skin tones and lighting. So I know that for like darker skin tone characters, you can't just come with like a bright white light. You kind of have to add some hues of like red or purple, or like some light that bounces off from whatever room they're in or their environment. So I will say definitely do some studies on that, and like for cinematography, for different shows that highlight a lot of diverse characters, because that will help you when it comes to kind of adjusting your lighting style. So, but overall, great work. That's it for me.
Thank you both. We have some really, really great questions in the chat, so I kind of wanted to combine a couple of them, if that's okay with you, just so we can get to a couple of meaty answers. But there's a lot of questions about what's the most important part of the portfolio for DreamWorks, and in that, kind of two questions. Do you need to have multiple art mediums in the portfolio? And then when you do talk about process, can you delve into a little bit more about what you mean by process?
I can take the process one because I read that one too, and I was like, I should have elaborated. So when I was saying process, when I was looking at the character design portfolio, it's more of your artistic process. So how you started with an idea for the character and then arrived at your final design. So even just seeing different, did you try different heights, different weights? Did you try different skin colors? Did you try different, and so it's interesting to see how you got from A to Z. It also, when you do put that artistic process in, speaking of design at the moment, same if you're doing environments, if you are designing a city or a building, how many different shapes did you try? How many different styles? Did you try different styles of like 2D, CG? Like how did you get to what you wanted in the end? And so that helps the art directors sort of see how you think, and how you arrive at your final design. So that helps them see, again, that is the process, your artistic.
Awesome, thank you. And then what, for visual development portfolios, what aspects are most important for DreamWorks, would you say specifically? Story-driven, visual problem solving, I know you kind of touched on that, but what makes you go, aha, they'd be good here?
I think on the TV side, it's tricky because we're also it depends on what style we're looking for. Because we have so many shows. So, we have 2D comedy, we have CG comedy, we have CG action, we've got, we do everything, like if you've seen Fast and Furious to Gabby's Dollhouse to, we've had all these shows. So not everyone's going to fit the show we're looking for, but they might fit another show. So I feel like it's really hard to tell someone what they should be creating because that's personal. But because I've gotten asked that question before from students, and they're like, what should I be drawing? What style should I be doing? And I'm like, well, that's really personal to you because, you need to find your style, and your style will fit projects. It just may not fit every project. So I have a hard time telling people what they should be putting specifically artistically in their portfolio, because I feel that's a personal thing. I don't know, Dodge, what do you think? I mean, there are certain rules, but like, I can't tell you what your style is.
Yeah, no, I agree. People ask all the time, oh, should I conform my style to whatever the company is? And my answer is no. I feel like your style is like intrinsically who you are as an artist. So that should shine through regardless of whatever, I guess, style you're trying to work on at the studio. I think it's more so about being able to take constructive feedback and tweak things so that your finished product is matching, the art director or the heads of story or whatever the case might be. So you just want to make sure that you're honing in on your traditional skills so that you can be more versatile. I wouldn't say change your style.
And just to piggyback on that, though, when you are submitting for things, it is good to know the company. So, if you are someone who really loves, and again, this depends on what you enjoy doing, you don't want to apply for something you're going to do 40 plus hours a week that you don't like doing. So when I'm saying you need to find your style, that's kind of also what I mean is you have to love the thing that what you're outputting. So if you are someone who loves to draw like monsters that are like super hyper real and really creepy gross, and like DreamWorks may not be the right company for your portfolio, and that's okay, because there are VFX companies, gaming companies that make that material, and so you would be a great fit for that type of storytelling. If you like to do that, plus you like to do an animation style, just make sure you have that set up on your your portfolio, where it's like you have a section for your gaming stuff and you have a section for your animation style stuff. But yeah, really know, once you do figure out what you like to do and your style, really know what you're like, where you're applying, and if that is like something they do. That is something I think that is important to keep in mind.
For sure. So the most upvoted question is, what do you recommend for people who have zero experience yet in the industry, and what can we do for recruiters to notice us?
I'm sure you've noticed that a lot of companies are coming out with trainee programs, and the requirements for those things are becoming a little more, expanded. Like trainee used to be, a few years out of school, but now some companies' trainees are just people that don't have experience in the industry. So I think that that's a really great way to include those folks that maybe have missed the mark for the few years out of school deadline. The other thing is LinkedIn. If you're networking and talking with recruiters, and usually they have their contact information. Once they add you, it's visible. So if you want to share your work, sparingly, I'll add, because we get lots of emails, and getting a few portfolios a day is a bit overwhelming. But if you just want to send a note and then follow up on LinkedIn or any other social media platform, I think that's appropriate. Jen, what do you think?
Agree, and I think something that's really come out of this time in the industry is, I feel like there are more opportunities for mentorship than I've ever seen before, which is wonderful. There's so many avenues now. And I think because we're all working from home, we are on computer a little bit more, we are on LinkedIn, like she said, we are. And I know for a fact that there's plenty of people who are in the industry that have been working a long time, that if you reached out and they have a time to talk about it, like they will talk to you, and they will give you feedback, and they will, let you know where you can improve, or, and I think, it's all about really just reaching out. And not everyone, don't get discouraged if not everybody answers you. Not everybody either has time, or, not everybody's a mentor. So, but yeah, the trainee programs are awesome. And then, just looking for mentorship opportunities and really reaching out right now, and don't get discouraged if you don't hear from people right away.
Would you say too that social media is a good avenue for putting yourself out there as an up and coming artist?
Huge. Yeah. We use Instagram a ton. I think Instagram's a little harder for board artists, just because of the platform. But I do find some on there too. We look up hashtags on Twitter, for those kind of things, for portfolios and certain, job titles. So I think, yes, 100%. That's another great way. And, there's a lot of communities starting on things like, Instagram and Twitter for artists right now that are either getting in, or, they're just starting out. And so they can kind of join, and you guys, kind of link together, which helps each other. So yeah, I think that's a huge factor right now as well. That's really helpful.
There's a lot of Instagrams being dropped in the chat.
Yeah, I'm seeing that. I'm seeing those pop.
I know we're slightly over, but there were a lot of questions about kind of, as you mentioned, storyboard portfolios versus biz dev, and what you prefer looking at boarding portfolios.
In what way do you mean? What do I prefer looking at?
Oh, it just went away. Long boards versus short boards. What should they include? That sort of stuff.
Got it. So what you should include, for me, again, goes back to what stories you want to tell. Long or short, I think I've seen some really short little stories that have kind of a beginning, middle, and an end, and they're quick, and but it's a nice little moment, and it has a full way through to it. And I've seen long ones that don't get lost in the weeds, and I'm really engaged. And so I think it's less about length than it is content for me. My big thing with the storyboards is always like, please make it click through, or I know I said this earlier, or animatic. I just think for that, it helps us experience your story better, timing wise, because the multi-panel, you just skip ahead, you might miss a really important beat, or there might be a huge reveal at the end, and it's not going to have the same gravitas to it if I'm just scanning through a bunch of panels. So that's always my thing, is please do that. But yeah, long or short, it's really about, is it an engaging story? Is it something that I want to find, go to the end and find out what am I really interested in the characters, and that's just storytelling. As far as type of stories, again, that is going to be personal. What stories do you want to tell? Because I have seen a lot of people, I'm going to slow down, I talk really fast, I just realized I was doing that again. I've seen a lot of people try to put every style on their page. So 2D comedy, action, dramatic scenes. Not everybody's going to board everything well. So if you really like doing action boards and acting scenes, do action boards and acting scenes. If you really love 2D board driven, do 2D board driven, because that's going to show. I feel like when people are trying to board things they're not as comfortable with or not as interested in, it shows in your boards. So once again, it goes back to board the things that the stories you really want to tell us. And that's going to show your enthusiasm for that storytelling. And then there's a bunch of technical stuff, but in the basis, it's a good place to start.
Awesome. And I think we have time for one last question. Can you talk a little bit about the differences between what TV and feature portfolios? I think this is specifically for story, but I guess generally, is there something you should include if you're applying for feature versus story, TV?
If we're doing story, not really. I mean, as far as, I think, again, it's just that the styles are going to be different between TV and feature. Because we have, again, so many different styles of show. So, for features, a lot of times they might be looking for much more dynamic camera work. It's going to be a little bit different level of drawing style. Whereas if somebody is really into, again, more of that 2D board driven style of storytelling, the camera is going to be very different. It's not, the way that you use things as far as cinematography is going to be very different. It really comes down more to style than it does having something, for one or the other. I don't feel like that makes sense, but you're going to be, either style wise is going to fit either a TV show or a film, because it's just different types of storytelling, really.
Awesome. Well, thank you both so much. There were a lot of questions in the chat too about our internship and trainee program. So I don't know if we can just drop the link to our website in the chat. I can do that too. And then rules around being international or not. So all of that is answered on our website as well. But any last words of wisdom you'd like to share before we wrap?
Well, keep it on. I know it's hard right now, especially with everything being virtual, but to Jen's point, this is the most that things have been virtual. So take advantage of making sure that your virtual presence and profile is up to date, and it's an extension of you. And that, you're easy to find, and that you show your versatility in your work. I think, as long as you continue to come to events like this and network, you'll build connections, and timing is everything. So
I agree. And just really stay true to what you love. It's why you started in the first place. So we say one thing based on what we've learned, but you are going to go talk to somebody else in the industry and they'll say other things. So it's take some things with a grain of salt. The stuff that's really helpful, you know, take that. If it doesn't feel like it's helping you, then let it go. But, you know, just hanging in there, keep going. You know, it's exciting seeing everybody continue to get better and better. So
awesome. Well, thank you both for your time. We really appreciate it.
thank you guys.